欢迎来到职场达人英语学习节目，让我们开始学习吧。
Tell me about a time you had to quickly adapt to a significant change at work.
请描述一次你在工作中需要快速适应重大变化的经历。
Tell me about a time you had to quickly adapt to a significant change at work.
请描述一次你在工作中需要快速适应重大变化的经历，展示面对变化时的灵活性和积极心态，强调如何快速调整并帮助他人适应。
Last year, our company underwent a sudden acquisition that radically changed our product roadmap and tech stack priorities. Situation. As a senior back-end engineer, I needed to quickly pivot from our microservices migration to integrating our authentication system with the parent company's identity platform within an aggressive 6-week timeline tasks. Rather than focusing on what we were losing, I immediately immersed myself in the parent company's documentation and scheduled calls with their engineering team to understand their architecture. I recognized that our team was experiencing both technical uncertainty and emotional resistance, so I organized knowledge-sharing sessions where we could collectively learn about the new systems. When it became clear that our existing JWT-based approach wasn't compatible with their OAuth implementation, I quickly developed a dual authentication adapter that would support both systems during a transition period. To manage the compressed timeline, I created a phased integration plan with clear milestones and distributed focused learning assignments across team members to parallelize our ramp-up efforts. When team morale dipped due to the uncertainty, I maintained a positive attitude and highlighted how this integration would actually solve several long-standing issues in our authentication flow action. We successfully completed the integration 2 days ahead of schedule, with 0 authentication outages during the transition. The adapter pattern we developed became a reference implementation for other teams facing similar integration challenges. My approach to breaking down the change into manageable components helped reduce team anxiety, with several engineers later telling me that my positive framing helped them see the acquisition as an opportunity rather than a setback. The parent company's CTO specifically commended our team's adaptability compared to other acquired groups, and I was asked to help develop integration playbooks for future acquisitions. This experience reinforced my belief that effective adaptation requires both technical agility and emotional resilience, addressing not just the work to be done, but also how people feel about the change result. Describe a stressful situation at work and how you handled it.
描述一次工作中的压力情境，以及你如何处理的点。
Describe a stressful situation at work and how you handled it.
描述一次工作中的压力情境，以及你如何处理的点。展示压力管理和保持效能的能力，强调如何识别压力来源并采取健康的应对策略。
3 months ago, our team faced an extremely stressful situation when a critical security vulnerability was discovered in our payment processing system late on a Friday afternoon, potentially exposing customer financial data situation. As the lead backend developer, I needed to coordinate an emergency fix, verify its effectiveness, and deploy it to production, all while managing the team's stress and maintaining clear communication with stakeholders' tasks. I first took a moment to assess the severity and scope of the issue, confirming it was a legitimate vulnerability, but that no evidence of exploitation had been found yet. Rather than rushing into a panic-driven response, I created a structured incident plan with clear responsibilities and timeframes. I recognized that stress was affecting team communication, so I established a dedicated Slack channel with structured update formats to reduce confusion. To manage cognitive load, I broke down the response into discrete work streams. One engineer investigating the extent of potential exposure, another developing the patch, and a third preparing the verification tests. Recognizing signs of exhaustion after several hours, I ensured team members took short breaks and arranged for food delivery. When our initial fix attempt failed verification, I maintained calm and facilitated a focused debugging session rather than allowing frustration to take over. Throughout the incident, I maintained transparent communication with leadership, while shielding the team from unnecessary pressure action. We successfully deployed a comprehensive fix within 8 hours, with no evidence of data compromise. Our incident response was later praised by the security team as a model for handling critical vulnerabilities. Team feedback highlighted that the structured approach prevented panic and helped everyone contribute effectively despite the pressure. Personal lessons from this experience included the importance of creating structure during chaos, the value of transparent but filtered communication, and the need to actively monitor team well-being during high-stress periods. I've since implemented several of these practices into our formal incident response procedures, which have improved our handling of subsequent though less critical incidents result. Tell me about a time you failed. How did you deal with the situation?
请描述一次你失败的经历，你是如何处理这种情况的？
Tell me about a time you failed. How did you deal with the situation?
请描述一次你失败的经历，你是如何处理这种情况的？展示面对失败的诚实和弹性，强调如何从中学习并转化为未来的成功。
A year ago, I led the development of a real-time collaboration feature that ultimately failed during its initial release, causing significant user disruption and requiring a rollback situation. As the technical lead, I was responsible for architecture decisions, implementation quality, and release readiness tasks. After the rollback, my first step was to take ownership of the failure, rather than deflecting blame. I immediately conducted a thorough technical analysis, which revealed that our WebSocket implementation couldn't handle the connection volume, and our testing hadn't adequately simulated real-world conditions. I transparently shared these findings with both leadership and the entire engineering team, explicitly acknowledging my mistakes in architecture planning and test design. Rather than rushing to fix the issue, I facilitated a comprehensive retrospective, where team members could safely share their perspectives. This revealed additional factors I hadn't considered, including unclear requirements around concurrency expectations. I developed an action plan addressing both technical and process improvements, including implementing a more robust WebSocket architecture with proper load testing, and introducing progressive rollout practices. Recognizing that team confidence had been shaken, I paired with engineers during the redesign process to rebuild trust and share knowledge about distributed systems challenges. Action. 3 months later, we successfully relaunched the feature with 99.98% stability, even at 3x the original user load. The improved architecture became a pattern used across other real-time features, and our new progressive rollout process was adopted by the entire engineering organization. On a personal level, this experience transformed my approach to system design. I now place much greater emphasis on failure modes and operational characteristics, rather than just functional requirements. It also changed how I view leadership during setbacks. Owning failure openly actually increased the team's respect and trust rather than diminishing it. Most importantly, I learned that failure, when handled constructively, can drive more significant improvements than success often does result. Tell me about a time you received constructive feedback.
请描述一次你接收到建设性反馈的经历。
Tell me about a time you received constructive feedback.
请描述一次你接收到建设性反馈的经历，展示接受反馈和自我提升的能力，强调如何听取批评，并将其转化为个人或专业成长。
6 months ago, during a major code review for our authentication service rewrite, my manager provided stark feedback that my code, while functionally correct, was overly complex and would create maintenance challenges for the team situation. As a senior developer who prided myself on sophisticated technical solutions, I needed to address both the specific code issues and my broader approach to software design tasks. My initial reaction was defensive, as I had invested significant effort into what I thought was an elegant solution. However, instead of immediately responding, I took time to reflect on the feedback, recognizing it came from a place of experience and concern for the team. I scheduled a follow-up meeting with my manager to better understand specific examples of unnecessary complexity. This conversation revealed that I had been optimizing for flexibility and theoretical edge cases at the expense of readability and maintainability. I rewrote the authentication service with a focus on simplicity, removing speculative abstractions and clearly documenting the essential complexity that remained. Beyond this specific project, I started a personal development practice of revisiting my code after implementation to identify opportunities for simplification. I also began soliciting feedback earlier in the design process and paired with different team members to gain exposure to diverse coding styles and approaches. Action. The revised authentication service was not only approved but was later described as textbook clear by new team members who needed to work with it. My manager noted significant improvement in my subsequent work, particularly in the balance between technical sophistication and maintainability. The experience triggered a fundamental shift in how I evaluate good code, from focusing primarily on clever solutions to prioritizing clarity and maintainability. I've since helped establish code simplicity guidelines for our team, and now regularly mentor junior developers who struggle with the same tendencies toward unnecessary complexity that I exhibited. This experience reinforced that receiving constructive feedback, especially when it challenges your self-perception, provides the greatest opportunities for professional growth. Tell me about a time when you had to leave a task unfinished.
请描述一次你不得不留下未完成任务的经历。
Tell me about a time when you had to leave a task unfinished.
请描述一次你不得不留下未完成任务的经历。展示优先级设定和项目管理能力，强调如何在不得不搁置工作时进行透明沟通，并确保知识传递。
Last quarter, I had spent 3 weeks developing an advanced data visualization feature when our company suddenly shifted priorities after a major market change situation. As the lead front-end developer, I had to decide how to responsibly deprioritize my partially completed work to focus on the new business-critical user onboarding flow task. Rather than simply abandoning the unfinished work, I first documented the current state of the feature, including completed components, outstanding challenges, and architectural decisions. I created a comprehensive knowledge repository with annotated code examples, noting non-obvious technical decisions that would not be apparent from the code alone. To preserve context, I recorded a 15-minute technical walkthrough video, demonstrating the working parts and explaining the integration points. Recognizing that the work might be resumed in the future, I refactored the code to isolate the visualization components from dependencies on in-progress features, then created a separate branch with clean commit history. I transparently communicated with stakeholders about the current state, estimated remaining work, and potential business value to help inform future prioritization decisions. Before fully switching to the new priority, I scheduled a handoff meeting with the product team to ensure they understood both the technical status and business implications. Action. While the visualization feature remained unfinished for 6 months, when business priorities eventually shifted back, another developer was able to pick up the work with minimal ramp-up time, completing it in just 2 weeks, versus an estimated month if starting from scratch. The documentation and isolated architecture I had created became a model for how our team handles unfinished work during priority shifts. Product leadership specifically commented that my transparent approach to deprioritization helped them make more informed roadmap decisions. This experience reinforced the importance of treating unfinished work not as failure, but as a potential future asset that requires proper stewardship, a mindset I've since promoted across our engineering organization. Describe a time when you worked effectively under pressure.
描述一次你在压力下有效工作的经历。
Describe a time when you worked effectively under pressure.
描述一次你在压力下有效工作的经历。展示压力管理和保持高效能的能力，强调如何在紧张环境中保持冷静、专注并达成目标。
Last holiday season, our e-commerce platform experienced an unexpected 300% traffic surge during a flash sale, causing severe performance degradation and intermittent outages. Situation. As the on-call engineer, I needed to quickly diagnose and resolve the issues, while the company was losing an estimated $20,000 in sales every minute task. Upon receiving the alert, I first took a deep breath and followed our incident response protocol rather than rushing into random fixes. I quickly established a virtual war room and assigned clear roles to the engineers who joined. To maintain focus under pressure, I created a shared document tracking our hypotheses, findings, and attempted solutions. Rather than getting distracted by the numerous alerts and complaints flooding in, I prioritized investigating the database connection pool, which metrics showed was the most likely bottleneck. When the initial analysis confirmed this suspicion, I implemented a 2-phase approach, an immediate configuration change to increase connection limits as a temporary measure, followed by implementing connection pooling optimizations. Throughout the incident, I maintained calm, clear communication with both the technical team and business stakeholders, providing regular status updates with estimated resolution times. When a well-meaning senior architect suggested a different approach that would have diverted our efforts, I respectfully acknowledged the input while staying the course on our evidence-based plan action. We restored full service within 45 minutes, preventing what would have been a $900,000 revenue loss if the outage had continued. The optimizations implemented not only resolved the immediate crisis, but improved our overall system resilience, enabling the platform to handle 400% of normal traffic and subsequent high-volume events without issues. The incident post-mortem I led resulted in several process improvements for future high-traffic events. The CTO specifically commended my methodical approach under extreme pressure, noting that my calm leadership prevented panic-driven decisions that could have extended the outage. This experience reinforced my belief that effective performance under pressure comes not from heroics, but from maintaining systematic thinking, clear communication, and emotional regulation, skills I've since helped other team members develop through our incident response training program result. Tell me about a time when things didn't go as planned.
请描述一次事情没有按计划进行的经历。
Tell me about a time when things didn't go as planned.
请描述一次事情没有按计划进行的经历，展示应对意外和调整计划的能力，强调如何保持灵活性，并找到替代解决方案。
6 months ago, our team was 2 weeks away from launching a major feature when our third-party payment provider unexpectedly announced they were deprecating the API we had built our entire integration around situation. As the technical lead, I needed to quickly develop an alternative approach while minimizing delay to our critical launch timeline. Task. I immediately called an emergency team meeting to assess the situation rather than panicking or assigning blame. After confirming the deprecation couldn't be postponed, I facilitated a rapid impact analysis to understand exactly which components would be affected. Instead of scrapping our work entirely, I proposed a two-track approach. First, we would develop a temporary adapter layer that would allow our existing code to work with both the old and new APIs during a transition period. Second, we would redesign the affected components for the new API on a parallel track. I reprioritized our sprint backlog, deferring non-critical features to free up capacity. Recognizing that we had knowledge gaps about the new API, I assigned different team members to rapidly prototype key integration points, while I negotiated with the product team about acceptable trade-offs. When we discovered that the new API lacked a critical feature we needed, I developed a creative workaround using a combination of webhook events and client-side state management action. We successfully launched the feature just 1 week behind the original schedule, significantly better than the month-long delay initially feared. The adapter pattern we developed proved so effective that it was adopted as a standard approach for all third-party integrations, providing better insulation from future API changes. The experience prompted us to develop a more robust third-party dependency management strategy, including regular monitoring of deprecation announcements and diversification of critical dependencies. On a team level, our ability to rapidly pivot strengthened our collaborative problem-solving capabilities, with several team members specifically mentioning this incident as a valuable learning experience in subsequent retrospectives. This situation reinforced that effective response to planned disruption requires not just technical agility, but also transparent communication about trade-offs and creative problem-solving result. Describe a time when you had to deal with ambiguity in a project.
描述一次你必须处理项目中的模糊性的经历。
Describe a time when you had to deal with ambiguity in a project.
描述一次你必须处理项目中的模糊性的经历，展示在不确定条件下工作的能力，强调如何在信息不完整的情况下做出进展并逐步减少不确定性。
Last year, I was assigned to lead the development of a next-generation analytics dashboard with extremely vague requirements and stakeholders who had conflicting visions situation. As the technical lead, I needed to create a concrete implementation plan and deliverables timeline despite significant ambiguity about what success would look like. Task. Rather than waiting for perfect clarity or building something that might miss the mark, I developed an incremental approach to navigate the ambiguity. First, I conducted stakeholder interviews to identify common themes and priorities, creating a shared vocabulary around what next generation actually meant to different groups. When I discovered that user needs were poorly understood, I worked with product managers to develop rapid prototypes of different approaches that stakeholders could react to, rather than continuing abstract discussions. To manage the technical uncertainty, I designed a modular architecture that could accommodate different visualization types and data sources as requirements solidified. I established regular demo sessions where we could get feedback on concrete implementations rather than concepts. When we encountered decision paralysis around competing feature priorities, I introduced a lightweight evaluation framework that scored potential features on business impact, technical feasibility, and user value, creating a more objective basis for decisions. Throughout the project, I maintained a decision log documenting our assumptions and the context behind key choices, allowing us to revisit them if needed as clarity increased action. The incremental approach allowed us to deliver a minimum viable dashboard within 2 months that immediately provided value, followed by monthly enhancements based on actual usage data rather than speculation. The final solution achieved a 92% user satisfaction rating, significantly higher than previous analytics tools. The modular architecture we developed was flexible enough to incorporate 3 major requirement shifts during development without requiring substantial rework. Senior leadership cited this project as an example of effective execution despite ambiguity, and the stakeholder alignment techniques we developed have been adopted by other teams facing similar challenges. This experience reinforced my belief that navigating ambiguity effectively isn't about eliminating it entirely up front, but creating processes that allow you to make progress while incrementally increasing clarity. Result. Tell me about a time when you experienced a big change in requirements for a project you were working on.
请描述一次你经历项目需求发生重大变化的经历。
Tell me about a time when you experienced a big change in requirements for a project you were working on.
请描述一次你经历项目需求发生重大变化的经历。展示在需求变更中保持适应性和积极心态的能力，强调如何评估影响并调整计划，以适应新方向。
6 months ago, midway through developing our company's customer feedback portal, the executive team pivoted from a standalone application to requiring integration with our CRM system, following an unexpected acquisition situation. As the project lead, I needed to dramatically adapt our approach, while minimizing timeline disruption and maintaining team morale. Task. My first action was to thoroughly understand the reasoning behind the change, rather than resisting it. After consulting with leadership, I learned that the integration would ultimately provide greater business value through customer data unification, though it created significant technical challenges. Rather than scrapping our work entirely, I organized an impact analysis workshop, where the team systematically identified components that could be preserved, those requiring adaptation, and those needing complete redesign. To maintain momentum, I restructured our roadmap to front-load features that remained unchanged while we architected the new integration approach in parallel. Recognizing the team's frustration with wasted work, I explicitly celebrated the components we could preserve and framed the pivot as an opportunity to create greater impact through an integrated solution. When we discovered that the CRM's API lacked certain capabilities we needed, I worked directly with their technical team to identify creative workarounds using webhook-triggered automation rather than waiting for their roadmap updates. To prevent future disruption, I established more frequent alignment sessions with executive stakeholders to detect potential shifts earlier action. Despite the significant requirements change, we delivered the integrated portal only 3 weeks behind our original timeline. User adoption exceeded expectations by 45%, validating the pivot to an integrated approach. The modular architecture we developed to facilitate the integration has since become a pattern for other systems connecting to the CRM. Team surveys indicated that my transparent communication about the change rationale and the collaborative approach to replanning helped maintain motivation despite the disruption. Several team members later cited this experience as valuable in developing their adaptability to changing business needs. This situation reinforced that effective response to requirement changes requires balancing continuity and adaptation, preserving value from existing work while embracing new direction with a focus on the ultimate business outcomes. Result. Tell me about a time when you made a mistake. What did you learn from it?
请描述一次你犯错的经历，你从中学到了什么？
Tell me about a time when you made a mistake. What did you learn from it?
请描述一次你犯错的经历，你从中学到了什么？展示自我反思和从错误中学习的能力，强调如何吸取教训并改进流程，以防止未来类似错误。
Last year I made a significant mistake, when deploying a database migration that inadvertently locked critical tables during peak business hours, causing a 27-minute outage of our ordering system situation. As the senior back-end developer responsible for the migration plan, I needed to quickly resolve the issue while taking full responsibility for my error task. As soon as I realized what was happening, I immediately rolled back the migration and restored service access. Rather than making excuses, I sent a transparent communication to the engineering and business teams, explaining exactly what happened and that it was my error in planning the migration without proper consideration of lock contention. I then conducted a thorough root cause analysis, which revealed that I had tested the migration on a staging database with significantly less traffic and different usage patterns than production. I also identified that our deployment process lacked adequate safeguards for database migrations. Based on these findings, I developed and documented an improved migration approach including lock impact analysis, off-hours scheduling for high-risk changes, and incremental migration patterns. I shared this methodology along with my specific error in an engineering all-hands meeting, using it as a learning opportunity for the entire organization rather than hiding my mistake action. Beyond resolving the immediate issue, this experience led to several significant improvements. We implemented a new database migration framework with built-in safety checks that has prevented similar issues across multiple teams. The incident prompted us to improve our staging environment to better mirror production traffic patterns, enhancing the reliability of all testing. On a personal level, I developed a more rigorous approach to considering operational impact rather than just functional correctness, which has improved my effectiveness in system design. My willingness to own the mistake publicly and drive systematic improvements actually enhanced my reputation as a technical leader focused on continuous improvement. The most important lesson I learned was that mistakes, while painful, provide the most valuable opportunities for both personal growth and organizational improvement, but only if responded to with transparency and a genuine commitment to learning rather than defensiveness result.
请关注我们的频道，获取更多精彩内容。